Hello everyone, welcome back to Learn Python the Hard Way. Today we're going to focus on exercise 4, variables and names. To follow along, you can find the link to this particular chapter for free in the description below. Now in terms of variables and names, we are going to create a couple of different variables in this exercise and then use the print statement to actually print them out. And variables are very useful since we can use them to store values and to access them in different places. So to get started, we created a directory ahead of time in our terminal. And now we can just get started by actually opening a code file. So I'm going to create a Python file called exercise 4. And I'm going to open it in Visual Studio Code. And then let's follow along and enter the text here that is actually included in that code file. So we're going to create a variable called cars and set its value to 100. So an integer. Then space in a car. I'm going to set it to 4.0. So it's a float value. Drivers. Passengers. And all of these variables are lowercase. And we use snake case as shown here, so with underscores between the different words. So we have passengers here, then cars not driven, and we can also use this to basically use different variables that we already defined to define a new variable. So cars not driven here, for example, is calculated as cars, which is 100. Minus drivers, which is 30. So cars not driven would be 70 in this case. Then we can of course also reassign values. So here in this case, we're creating a new variable cars driven, and we are setting the value of drivers, which is 30, to cars driven. And then both cars driven and drivers point to the value 30 here. Can of course also multiply those values, so cars driven times space in a car, and assign that to a new variable carpool capacity. And finally we have average passengers per car, and here we can divide the different variable values, so passengers divided by cars driven. Now once we define those variables, we can then use them in a print statement. So here we can say print there are, comma, cars. So here we insert the variable name, and then we can continue this here by adding the rest of the string. We can do the same here for the drivers, to include the available drivers. Let's repeat that for the other variables. And of course there's an autocompleter available here in Visual Studio Code, so we can just click on that variable name or press on enter to just basically select that value, so we don't have to type it out in full. Alright, and once we entered all the print statements here, we can save this, go back to the terminal, and now to execute the code we just type in Python3 followed by the name of the file and press enter, and then we can see if we compare that to our print statements here, that of course the different lines are printed, but wherever we entered our variable name, that will of course be replaced by the respective value that we assigned to the variable. Now, if you wanted to, of course, we could later on, if you wanted, for example, change the number of cars, we could just change that later on and save it. And now if you run the file again, then all these values will be updated accordingly based on the new values that we assigned. So variables can be really helpful to store the values within our program and then to make changes to those values later on. We can also use it for calculations, as we've seen here. And then here at the bottom, we are able to print it out. So that's really useful to be able to use variables. And of course, we're going to use them going forward for the next exercises. But that's it for now. So see you in the next video.